All right, guys. So you're currently watching the video in the Google form, so you're in the right spot. You'll see below this video when you get there, there's two links for this activity, and the first one is this GeoGebra website that I'm showing you now. So what this will set you up with, and this is how everybody's page will start, is this 30-degree triangle that also has a 90-degree angle in it. All right, so let's say let me get back to that in a second. What these labels mean, if you look at this adjacent length, so right here, we can play around with this thing that says adjacent. So this is the purple side, and it's labeled for you in the diagram. We can play around with this angle measure, make it bigger or smaller. I can play around with this side that's called the opposite side. I can make it bigger or smaller. But it's all labeled for you. And we're going to spend a lot of time in this next class. So you don't have to worry about these words now. But this adjacent, just quickly, adjacent means next to. So that adjacent side, this right here, is the side that's next to the angle that we have in our triangle. So not counting the 90, it's next to this 34-degree angle. All right, we have this blue slider over here. So that gives us the measurement of the opposite side. So if you look at where that is, makes sense, that's the side opposite the angle that we're working with. So in this case, it's that 34-degree angle. So the two lengths we're really focusing on are the adjacent side and the opposite side. Now the hypotenuse, we talked about this in class last time, the hypotenuse is always the side directly across from the right angle. So that's just kind of is what it is. The hypotenuse is always that longest side. It's always the side across from the right angle. All right, the ones that we're going to focus on again are the adjacent and the opposite and how those lengths kind of change. So let me get rid of all this. And another helpful thing for this activity, this GeoGebra is a little bit finicky. Like if you zoom out or zoom in, or if you move your screen a little bit, it's easy to kind of lose track of. Yeah, there we go. It's easy to lose track of this. You can, accidentally zoom in or out. It looks kind of weird. If you go up top and you hit this reset button, it takes you right back to where you started. So what I'm going to do is I'll go full screen here so we can see a little bit better. The first task you're going to do is using this 30-degree angle. You're going to mess around with your numbers. You're going to play with your adjacent side a little bit. You can mess around with the length of the opposite side. But notice how if you change one, they all change. So as I make this opposite side bigger or smaller, the angles stay the same. So that's a lot of what we talked about last unit with our similarity. The triangle is getting bigger or smaller, but the angles are staying the same. So what I want you to do is mess around and get two different triangles. So maybe I think the one I did was if the opposite was 4. So I think this is the first triangle I recorded. So I jotted these side lengths down. That's 4.5. So if I'm on 4, I jotted these 3 side lengths down. You might have to get a little piece of paper to write your notes out. It'll probably be easier to do this on a Chromebook instead of your phone today. So you can have a couple different tabs open. But I wrote these 3 lengths down. Let me get out of my full screen here. I went to this spreadsheet, this Google sheet that I have linked in the Google form, and I recorded those sides. I recorded the opposite, I recorded the adjacent, and I recorded the hypotenuse. So you can see right there. And then I did it again. So I messed around a little bit more. I found another triangle, and then I recorded those 3 lengths. So what I would ask you to do is try your best. I know we'll probably have some repeats, but try your best to find 3 lengths that have not been recorded yet. All right, that your classmates have not done. So try to find new lengths. And then what I want you to do is divide your opposite side length by your hypotenuse. And that's going to go in this column here. I didn't write that in, but you guys can do that. And then the next one, I want you to divide your adjacent by your hypotenuse. So 7.79 divided by 9, and that will go in this column. So there may have to be a few repeats, but do your best to kind of come up with your own different triangle that hasn't been used yet. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is on the next tab of this. So first of all, make sure you're not editing anyone else's numbers, and make sure you're in the right tab of this Google sheet. So I have my 30-degree angle measurements sheet, and then down at the bottom, you can see I have my 50-degree angle. So we're going to go to 50-degree angle. I have that up here as well, so you can't miss it. So what I want you to do is go back to your triangles, and I want you to make a 50-degree angle. And I want you to do the same thing. I want you to find two different triangles. So make it as big or as small as you want. Mess around with your adjacent and your opposite. Jot down those numbers. You can see mine here. Write down the opposite length, the adjacent length, and the hypotenuse length again. And then do the same thing. I want you to divide your opposite by your hypotenuse. See what that decimal comes out to be. I want you to divide your adjacent by your hypotenuse. And we'll start to see some patterns. We'll talk a lot about this next class. If you want, you can really start playing around with this. You can make the angle really big and see what those numbers look like. You can make the angle really small and see what it looks like. All right, so if you really want to dive into this and play around with your measurements, there's some really cool stuff that happens. But that's the main part of the investigation. We're going to get into this a lot deeper in class next time. But I think that's all I have to tell you. So find two triangles for each angle measurement, a 30-degree and a 50-degree. Record your data, do your division, and then there's going to be a couple questions in the Google form that I want you to respond to as well. All right, so that's it. Let me know if you have any questions, if anything doesn't make sense, or talk to your learning group members, and I will see you in class next time. Bye.